system.
Guys, welcome back to Navigating Neva, and I am your host, Neva Nicole, with my co-host,
Wesley King.
And tonight we have our monthly collaborator, Phil, with SplashSave, and we're going to talk about the other 50% of our community, keeping staff longer than one season and building programs that actually fit people's lives. So let's go.
But before we do that, let's remind our audience that this is part 2 of your international global day of podcasting. Earlier today, 12 hours ago, we were in London, England, and now we're in New Zealand. God knows what day or time it is there. But for the audience, just to kind of understand how far we reach and how far we spread, excited to have Phil from New Zealand back with us. But again, just 12 hours ago, we were in England. So welcome back, Phil, and happy to get started and dig in deeper into our 50% and our recruiting strategies and our retention moves.
Sounds good. Yeah, always a pleasure to be here. And that's quite a travel from London to New Zealand in 12 hours.
The world of podcasts, that's how we do it. That's how we climb the ranks. You got to get the smart list and how to copy. We got to climb the ranks. That's how we do it. We go global.
They say if you want to reach everybody, to start a podcast.
This is what we're doing. And to that point, Phil, Nicole started us off. We really have some nice strategies today. We have all kinds of guests, but I think the audience is going to be really excited because they can take some notes here. They can dive deep into some of the things we're talking about in recruiting and retention and really solving those big problems. Start us off there. Help us understand that idea and concept.
In terms of recruitment and strategy for the kind of how you reach the other 50. So a lot of the times the industry works incredibly hard to reach that half of the population. And I mean, reaching that half of the population isn't an easy task. There's a lot of variations. There's a lot of different families and different kids and, a whole bunch of different kinds of people that walk through our doors. And I think one of the traps that we've fallen into is we're so busy trying to do BAU all the time that we don't often stop and reflect on, well, what is our community? Who are the members of our community? What are the makeup? And what is it that they genuinely want? I know with a lot of the pools and swim schools that I work with, they kind of run the program that they've always run, and it's always worked that way, and this is how we do it. However, what's happened in the outside of the facility is the community's changed and the community's evolved and they've grown, and there's been maybe large growth in the area of new families coming in. In New Zealand, obviously, we get a lot of migrants here and, kind of a lot of refugees as well, which changes the population slightly of what it is that you're after. And because we're always so focused on just trying to get the BAU done, it's not very often we as facilities take a stop and then a bit of a stock take of where our community's at. And it's asking those really important questions, like, how do you connect with the water? What's your relationship with it? What sort of programs are then going to help facilitate that? And then the other part of it is, what is the cultural aspect of what it is that we need to try and achieve? Does it need to have a specific teacher that can speak that native language, or does it mean that the program needs to be rewritten slightly because people are unlikely, your community might not want to turn up at the same time, same place every week, so therefore you need to be a little bit more flexible with your programming. So I think in a nutshell, happy to dive into that. There's a lot of information in that one quick paragraph, but yeah, happy to dive into anything else. But really the key message is regularly take a stock take of where your community's at and who makes up that community and what are their needs and wants.
So let's think about that. So when you say what are their needs and wants, and I know we're in different locations. I mean, even Wes and I are in different locations. And I mean, even when I'm thinking about where I am in Georgia, depending on if I cross the bridge, I'm in different things.
The causeway. You mean the
Yes,
causeway?
yeah, that's exactly. Wes knows where I'm at. So when we design our schedules, a lot of times facilities design their schedules to fit my schedule and not my client's schedule. And then other times we shift from selling a class, and sometimes we should solve a barrier. Could we talk about either one of those things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, New Zealand's a really cool country because it's quite small in terms of population, but that population is really diverse. We've got a true melting pot of New Zealand because, again, it's a beautiful country. A little plug for little old New Zealand down here if you ever get the opportunity.
What's the population? Just to give our audience a framework. What is the population?
A smidge over 5 million people make up New Zealand.
So a couple big cities in America is basically what we're right.
Remember
Number-wise, but not size-wise.
Yeah, okay. I remember talking to Arizona a couple of probably about a year ago, and the city of Arizona is quite larger than the country of New Zealand. So,
thank you. That's what I wanted the audience to understand. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So again, it's a gift and a curse. But what it means is that it's such a beautiful country. It's unspoiled, which makes it a destination for a lot of people. And we are in the Pacific. Again, a little bit of a geography lesson for everybody. So we're in the middle of the Pacific. And the Pacific waters are not always the friendliest waters. And you get, kind of migrants coming across from India or quite a lot of the Asian countries as well, where water doesn't make up their life. It's a very practical thing at best. So we've dealt with some communities where literally their only relationship with water is a tiny little stream that runs through the village that probably isn't even deep enough to drown in because it's a trickle as opposed to anything else. But what that means is that the approach it changes significantly from place to place. And as you highlighted, Nicole, between you and Wes, you're in different places. I'm in a different place again. And the one thing I can guarantee you is each of those communities want it slightly differently. So I suppose the good news for the industry is it's all the same thing. It's how you deliver it that needs to change. So everybody, it doesn't matter where you are, adult, child, you need to learn water confidence. Then you need to learn how to go under the water. Then you need to learn how to go on top of it. And then you need to learn to move through it. And that doesn't change. It doesn't change around the world. It doesn't. Culture irrelevant. That's how skills are built in the water. It's the same as walking. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. You will learn to put one foot in front of the other and walk, However, the delivery of the messages is what is really key for these guys because, for example, if I look at the Maori community here, so like the indigenous population of New Zealand, they don't use the water overly to recreate. So they won't necessarily just go to the beach for a family fun day. They're in the water because they're gathering food or they are providing for their family. Or
you're not calling it swim lessons, right? You're not calling it swim lessons.
They wouldn't go anywhere near.
We call everything a swim lesson. Sorry, go ahead. It's just different, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, for example, kind of the Maori and Pacifica population very rarely enroll into swim schools, and everybody always says, it's the financial, it's this and it's that, and it's not really. It's that our programs don't offer value for money for them. So, every facility in New Zealand that's taken a Te Ao Māori approach, which is a for Māori by Māori approach, their programs go on. They've got wait lists. They're so busy because the community is genuinely connected with the material and they're being taught the relevant things for how they would use the water. And that's been a huge shift in New Zealand over the last kind of 5 years. And there's nowhere near as many facilities doing this as they should be. Because time and time again, it's just proven, that we've got one to speak of is on the Kapiti Coast, which is just slightly, that's about an hour north of where I am. But they've introduced a Te Ao Māori program that was delivered through Otago University. Dr. Chanel Phillips, who is probably authority on Maori, kind of water safety and language. She was involved in the development of the program. The local iwi was involved in the development of the program. And what that's led to is probably one of the most successful, fastest growing, biggest Indigenous programs in New Zealand, and purely because they didn't go, we're going to make this program and then push it out. What they did was they took that step back and they said, what does our community actually want? What do they need? Let's co-design what they need with them. We'll use our expertise. They can use their cultural background and what they need from it. And I think that's something that so many facilities miss. And again, it's not the fault of the facility or the manager or the director, whoever it is. It's so much head down, bum up that you're just trying to get through I always call it the joy of aquatics with a little bit of a with a little bit of a giggle. But there's so many different things that you've got to try and deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So when you say the program, are you referring to SplashSave?
No, this is so we have had some kind of involved with the SplashSave stuff, and it gets used in a way that the parents can carry on using it at home as well. Obviously, professionally led lessons are very expensive. No matter how you try and cut them, there's a big cost to the pool and to the teacher. But no, this program, again, it takes elements of it, but it's largely a Te Ao Māori program. So again, to give you a prime example, so I'm English, so, I'm not from New Zealand originally.
Good day, mate. Oh, no, sorry.
I would not be able to create a Te Ao Māori program because I am not Māori. So
if you speak Spanish, you should have Spanish swim lessons. One of my biggest programs in Chicago, we are at a YMCA. I don't speak Spanish, but 45% of our YMCA members were part or near a Hispanic household. Our employees spoke Spanish. We turned our flyers into Spanish. The kids, the youth, staff ran the meetings. And we had 350 attendees on an average attendance of 80. Phil, I think what you're saying is we are always worried about the next swim instructor we're hiring. We're always worried about the next WSI course we're training. We're always worried about the next class we're going to market. But I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is rather than worrying about that, worry about a part of the population that we haven't really serviced in the way they want to be or need to be, from language, from staffing model, from time of day you're offering it, and make it about who's in your town. And if you have a Spanish, if you have Polish speaking employees, if you have Russian speaking, and there's a community there to serve them, have a class marketed like that. Have a class for students that teach and speak that language, and have your instructor spotlighted and say, we offer this 10 a.m. Spanish speaking class, sign up here because we know it's the barrier of language. We know it's the barrier of skin color. We know these are issues, but our organization is going to put a path forward to bridging that gap. And everybody who's listening has a situation from language to color to money to all of it that you could find a community bridge or causeway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. And again, a lot of the times, like I've seen the answers normally, it's the money, they can't afford it. It's this and it's that. And from my experience of working with that other 50%, it's just not true. Like, there are so many people enrolled in swimming lessons that can't really afford swimming lessons. Like the money is an issue to find $150 every 10 weeks.
People spend $600 billion on their cats and dogs every year in America, or 600, whatever the number is. They don't need to spend that money. I'd rather spend on swim lessons. To your point, Phil, it's how do they understand the value of that money and where it's going.
The value for money for it, So those parents have made the choice that it is worth the money and worth finding it to make sure their kids are water safe and have their swimming lessons. Whereas with that 50, the chances of them being at the same place every week, unlikely. If they miss a lesson, very rarely do you just get given a refund back from the swim school, because that obviously damages, our operation and how you can operate as a swim school. So they just go, well, there's no point. I'm not going to. It's just a waste of money.
Or the next franchise opened up next to me. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas, like, we've been involved in some, so obviously we do quite a bit of consultancy around and all of that sort of stuff. And we've been involved in the creation of some really cool programs where, again, a member of the community, so we had a community, and I won't go into which one it was, but like the chances of them being at the same time, same place was pretty much zero. So we worked with a facility, and what we did was we employed somebody from that community, and they own, well, and then what we did was we gave them lane space all day every day, so they didn't use it all day every day, but whenever
it was
they
there.
needed to, they were able to use the pool. And instead of having your structured swimming lessons where you're booking in online and then you know that you're on a Monday at 3:30, and what happened was at the beginning of the week, this woman just called up all of the community families and said, "Hey, what time are you free this week?"
Oh,
And then
beautiful,
she would then
beautiful.
create the week based on the availability of the whānau for that week, because
Think
they
of
were likely
homeschool
to know
parents. Think
what
of,
they were doing.
yeah.
So they knew what they were doing for the week, but they didn't know what they were doing for the next 3 months. So, but then what that saw was more and more people attending lessons every week because it wasn't that time bound thing.
And it's personal too.
And
It's a phone call to the house, and it's a personal relationship.
Yeah, and that's exactly how those communities work as well. You know, like having a poster thrown at them won't go anywhere.
Speaking their language, using their terminology.
Even if it's in their language, not interested, because it's being done to them, not with them. You know, and I think we fall into that, you know, kind of hole a little bit. But again, going back to the SplashSave stuff, that's where this stuff really comes into its own, because the more you can empower the family to do it in their own way that's culturally significant to them, that allows them to be able to learn the skills that they need, that is a massive way on how we're going to reach the 50%. It's about engagement, and it's about knowledge and understanding more than anything else, you know. So but yeah, definitely, I think, you know, the more we can approach our programming with a community first approach as opposed to what's easy for us to manage, that's how we actually reach the 50%, you know.
But what's a mind shift that a facility needs to take in order for this tactic to work?
I think the way that I would put it to the industry is we've been doing this for a long time. And we all know we've been doing this for a long time. You know, like the teaching methods have not changed dramatically since, and I've been doing this, oh Jesus, since '97 was when I started. And really, the teaching techniques haven't changed, the skills haven't changed, the way we deliver them is, you know, a little bit.
The water hasn't changed
nowadays than what it was when I first started.
It's the water's still wet.
The water's
still wet, and you've still got to learn how to float in it, you know. So it's those sorts of things don't change. But I suppose the mind shift changes. I come across a lot of people in the industry that have been doing the same thing for the same, but the numbers aren't changing. We're still seeing countless people drown every year. It is still the biggest preventable killer worldwide. You know, I mean, 10 million people in the last 10 years, and we still are beating on the same drum of just lessons. And it's, I think it works for half, but I don't think it works for the other half in the way that we do it. And like I say, it's the same skills, it's the same program. It's just broadening your horizons to look at how you run that program and deliver it in a very deliberate, different way.
And to our dedicated listeners, you would have heard this when we spoke with Joe from England. It's 50%. It's approaching that 50% in a way, understanding that it's real, and knowing that it's not just swim lessons, right? Whether it's a fear of the water, whether it's what is a swim lesson, whether it's, to your point, Phil, the denying of accessibility or funding or space. Swim lessons aren't having anything to do with that. But if we don't have the staff, if we don't have the community, I know we'll talk about some retention pieces here and how we really engage with that. If we don't have all of those things connected, that 50% is going to stay there or get worse, because we've been, I would dare say, brainwashed, whether it's by the franchises in the United States, whether it's by our disconnect from global water drowning prevention, to say, I'm in my community, my kid is, quote, safe, and I moved on. Or I run my pool, my pool is safe, and I've moved on. And I think, to your point, we really have to figure out how to bridge those gaps, because the numbers aren't changing. And if it's not fixed, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, maybe it's not as not broken as we thought, right? So it's maybe a little more broken than, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, the industry does a bloody good job to get to the the half that we do reach.
Sure.
And again, but it's like I said at the beginning, they're spending so long trying to just reach that first 50 that there's not much room for the second 50. But that's one of the reasons why I love working with Institute of Aquaphobia and like you guys, and because it's the different approach that's actually going to make a difference. Like Einstein said it, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And,
right.
The more that we explore and collaborate and do things in a different way and be open to change, instead of it just, no, this is how I do, this is how it's done and this is how we do it. And it's always been that way. And, again, like working with Mike and the aquaphobia team, that's a huge part of a 50%. Like, the number of adults that are terrified of water is
crazy.
A terrifying number. It's a terrifying number.
And we just pretend like it's not real. And speaking of things that we have a hard time grasping, and just kind of to shift subjects here a little bit, is our staff, those that we rely on to teach the lessons. Would you talk a little bit to the audience about KPIs and key point indicators, some of the things that you've used to really help staff retain and get involved, and then maybe a story behind it and how it was implemented relevant to really keeping your team believing in these goals when they're just here to teach swim lessons?
Yeah,
Right?
It's a very interesting one. It's not, but it's relatively easy to do. It just takes a bit of effort. Is probably the best way to describe it.
I think marriage is like that too. My wife tells me marriage is just like that. It just takes a little bit of effort. Anyway, sorry.
Anything worth putting time into, is,
right, doing it right.
A little bit of effort. Anything worth doing, it's never going to be easy. So I think a big part of it is, look, we get a huge staff turnover in this industry, which makes it very, very difficult to, I suppose, ingrain culture. And definitely when I was running, kind of large team bases, so, kind of teams of 87 staff and all of that sort of stuff, it's really difficult to align everybody, because you've got, again, so if I use a swim school as an example, so there was about 27 staff in the swim school, all swim teachers, 27 different people, and it was quite how do you get them all aligned? One of the strategies I've found is getting them involved in the decision-making process goes a long way. Now, that's not saying you hand over decision-making to your swim teachers, but what it is allowing them the time and space to have their input and their thoughts. So to put it into kind of a practical context for you, so I took over, this was quite a few years ago now, but I took over a swim school and I nearly didn't take the job because the swim school was so horrific. And they won't mind me saying this, because
when you say horrific, help us understanding. Is it a dirty pool?
The
team was
staff didn't
without
care.
details, but what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So ultimately, I walked into a team of about 30 odd people. The staff didn't care. There was zero care factor in the program. The program, again, to give you an example of the program went from absolutely nothing to do with back or backstroke into swimming 100 meters of backstroke. And it was like, well, where in this program have we taught them any of the key skills?
Just get in and start swimming.
Yeah. So it was, no, do all of these, but there was nothing in terms of building a stroke to, actually being able for them to be able to complete it well. Staff training never happened. The facility was 50 years old and falling into disrepair.
Our audience members are going, hey, I've been there. I have one of those. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you looked at it and you thought, this is going to be a mountain to climb. And again, it was many years, and I had a lot of energy and a lot of passion for trying to get it right. However, what I did was it started with the people. So I have a very strong belief when it comes to swim schools. So you can write the best processes in the world, you can have the best procedures, you can have the best systems, But if your teachers are not in the water doing the business in the water and making the kids love them, you've got no swim school. You've got nothing, and it really hinges on the staff. So what I did was we started again pretty much. I got all of the team together. Definitely all your full timers, all of the guys that are there for long periods of time. And the more that they can get their fingerprints on it, and the more that they can help build the program and shape the way that we do it. And I mean, that was back in the days when we really started pushing water safety in New Zealand. And I'm proud to say I was one of the first to really kind of put a stake in the ground and go, we're not here to teach swimming. We'll teach your kid to survive, then we'll teach them to swim. So we know, like,
just even saying those phrases to a swim instructor sometimes. Yeah. Hey, I'm here to teach swimming. I don't care if they fall off the. No. You're here to make sure that the experience and the environment is safe. No, I teach freestyle swim. No. You teach the understanding of water, and just even having that conversation can be hard at times.
Yeah, and I mean, to put it into, I think if I'd gone in and gone, we're going to teach water safety first, and then we're going to teach the kids to swim, I would have got nowhere. Like the staff would have done their heels in. They would have.
To my point, yeah, the hard words to swallow.
Who's this new guy coming in and changing what we're doing and blah blah blah. And that happened. I see that happen to so many people, and it's so unfortunate because there's other ways that you can do it. So again, it's working with us. Let's highlight all of the issues. What's the problems for you guys in the pool? Where's your pain in the backsides? So let's try and remove those first. And then they come in, this, and I hate the kids not being able to move up, and blah, 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 blah. And then
I don't have enough space. I don't have enough, yeah.
Exactly. So then what you do is then you start building it moving forward. Well, okay, well, if we ran a different type of program where maybe there was a few more logical steps in how we did that, what would that look like? And then they get to say, oh, well, they would do this at this point, and then they'll do that at that point. And all you've got to do as the manager or team leader or coordinator or whatever your job title is make notes and just get an understanding of what your guys want to see, because when you will then have to go away and do the work. They won't do the work for you. They're swim teachers. That's what you're employed to do. But when you go back and you go, hey, here's the program that we've been working on. And again, what I did was I started highlighting senior members of staff. So those that had maybe a bit of a portfolio to look after, and that was their little piece of the swim school that they could cherish and harness. And what I did was they were key members of staff. You put them in the room together with you to create whatever it is that you're going to be creating.
Leadership team.
Going back to the 50% that we were talking about before, you get part of the community in that conversation as well. You will produce magic. Those guys that have been part of the team will then go back, and because their fingerprints are all over it, and because they've had a hand in designing it, they will want to see us succeed, which means that all of their mates in the pool will want to see them succeed as well. So just by simply not bowling in the door and going, this is how I do it, and this is the way, it's taking a step back with the staff, letting them get involved in the creation and what it all looks like. And no, not everybody's idea will make it in, and kind of, you're going to have to be ruthless with some of the suggestions that you get. But what will happen is, especially if your senior team are involved in all of those decision makings, it just flows out really nicely, and you get this upward push of swim teachers actually wanting to be in the water, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Good. Enjoying their time with the kids. And so the only other thing I would say on the back of that is it's fun. You need to make it fun. So we had a rule that if there's no customers around, within reason, I don't care what you get up to, right? If there's no customers in the water, we're not in the middle of swim school. If you guys want to go out and kick a ball around or run, go out to the party or have a laugh in the staff room, watch it, whatever, I don't care. But the second there is a customer, you are nothing but professional. You get that balance of the professionalism and the kind of, it's still being a fun place to be and a fun place to work, because let's face it, we deal with kids most of the time, and that's not in a derogatory way, but for a lot of people, lifeguarding or swim teaching is their first ever job. So we've got to teach them how to be an employee and understand what annual leave is and sick leave and how all of that stuff works. So
Absolutely.
it's kind of still making sure it's still fun for them, but they really understand that layer of professionalism. Plus, they want to do the best for the kids. That's when you can sit back as a manager and just enjoy the whole process. Like, I see a lot of group chats where it's people struggling with it all, and it doesn't have to be like that. Like, I've lived in aquatics for a long time, and I loved every team that I've been in, because we've created that environment and culture where you can be team members. You can
Team
have
being a key word too.
World, and you know.
So did you regret taking that job? Or
Nah, not at all.
No, I knew it. I knew you loved it.
Yeah, it was the best thing I ever did, and it was really cool because it was a challenge. And
we need
again,
challenges.
to turn around, and to turn around like people that were incredibly anti me and what I wanted to try and achieve, because they've been there for so long. To see those guys actually be the ones that push forward. And I mean, it even got to the point where I'd be able to take an afternoon off and just turn around to one
mercy.
you guys and go, I'm going to go fishing this afternoon. You've got this, eh? And then they would go, yeah, sweet as. And then I'll pack up and go fishing for the afternoon. You know, my boss didn't know at the time, but there was the ability to, and whenever they needed time off, I would cover that. You know, like, I was never too big to get in the water. You know, like, even when I was running recreation, there was still times where I ended up in the pool teaching, because it was the swim school was buggered, and I knew that if I jumped in the next time I needed a favor from one of those guys, they're going to do it, because again, that never asking anybody to do something that you wouldn't be willing to do yourself also goes a long way. You know.
One example I would just quickly share on how a team can have a decision and come together, especially if you have a good leadership structure, is a lot of times swim programs and swim schools will try to run all the levels at the same time. At 4 o'clock, we have a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. Or they'll have all the level 1 at the same time. And so what I like to do, if capable, is I'll turn to the lead instructors and I would say, what's the best for the 2 hours? Is all the little kids progression, like level 1 for this half hour, level 2 for the next half, or can the pool support having lap swimmers and babies at the same time? Now, some curriculums don't let you do that, but that's a very easy way to plan ahead, to get the leaders involved, because they're the ones in the water dealing with the different ages of the kids. You have to promote it, to your point, Phil, of whatever the decision is. Do I promote all my levels separately or together? But that's a very easy, applicable way to think ahead for the next session, to think ahead in planning and marketing, and for your instructors, because they're the ones that have to pick the space apart, set the room up, set the pool up. So that's just an example to say, do we want to do all the levels at one time, or do we want to do level progression? And then the team can buy into how that builds out. There's a lot of examples, but that's one that I think at least allows for great discussion.
Yeah.
So, okay. Let's see.
Here. I got a question for you. So time and cost are real, and not everybody has a giant pool. I mean, some people do. I do, and some I don't. So if we are going to use SplashSave and we're going to use the parents to use this material, you now have made it digital and it's online. Is this true? Can you tell us about this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So SplashSave exists to kind of remove as many barriers as possible. So we're always trying to be as innovative as possible and trying to, again, do everything we can to just reduce more and more barriers. So recently we moved the whole SplashSave program online to a digital version, which has been really cool, because we've been able to add in some really cool videos in conjunction with Swim Teachers and Coaches Australia. And we're doing a little bit of work with Bondi Rescue to kind of improve the survival section. But for those that are watching that don't know what SplashSave is, it's kind of step-by-step for a parent to be able to teach their kid to be water safe.
Then you don't have to have a pool. There's no pool required.
You can do it all from the bath.
There we go.
Kind of
Sorry, go ahead.
You know, kind of really anywhere where there's water, because knee-deep water is enough to be able to teach a child to float, as long as, you know, what's deep to your child is not deep to you. So it's all relative. But what it does is it teaches the parent how to keep their own child safe. Like, we all know far too many children lose their lives. And again, on this podcast, I would imagine that we've all met parents that have lost children
and executives and leaders and operators and
there is nothing worse than sat across the table from a parent that's lost a child. I've met quite a few, and every single one of them has said the same thing. If I had known, there's no way this would have happened. So while the 50% that attend our lessons get that kind of education, the 50% that we're not hitting, they're not even getting the basic information of empty a bathtub. They're not getting that. Again, not to bring the mood down, but there was an under 5 that drowned in a wheelie bin, fell into a wheelie bin upside down, couldn't right themselves. And how simple is it to drill a little hole in the bottom of your wheelie bin so there's no, so that the water doesn't pool? And there's just some really simple things that the 50% miss that then lead to poor decision making. Poor decision making is what normally leads to drowning. If you're prepared and you understand the risks and you're aware of what those risks are, you're very unlikely to lose a child.
Knowingly, aware,
you've taken the precaution. Risk,
that's a challenge I have to our audience members is if you're listening to this, think about somebody that you think might be in that 50%. Think about somebody in your life, somebody in your house, somebody in your family, somebody in your church that would qualify of not having this knowledge. To Phil's point, there's a way to educate them. Sorry, Phil, go ahead. But it's so we know it. Everybody knows somebody that go, oh, they really don't know it. Anyway.
So it's the basic knowledge and awareness is missing, but then there's also some really basic skills that need to be taught. I mean, swim schools are awesome because they've got the whole knowledge base. They can do the whole thing, and they can take you from absolutely nothing to being an Olympic swimmer. Really, that's what we're trying to achieve is if every parent could teach their kids some basic water confidence and how to float, one of two things will happen. So number one, as an industry, we'll get it so much easier because the kids that are turning up are no longer screaming on the pool trying to get them in the water and all of that. But the other thing that will happen is that more and more parents taking the lead and teaching their own child, we're going to see a reduction in drownings because
parents,
the risk won't be getting taken anymore. There will be more awareness. So again, in New Zealand, where we're working at the moment is we're working on a kind of national partnership with Plunkett over here, which is the largest postnatal
there we go.
So just baby, Plunkett look after you. They've got nurses that come around to your house and weigh them and make sure they're developing properly and give you tips as parents. So now, the 5-month visit, what we're doing is we're educating every parent that this option is available. And
every parent in New Zealand.
We should have partnerships like this.
Right.
Yeah.
So that audience, if your city and your state, I know in New York they watch a video if you have a baby, but this is what other countries are doing. And I apologize for interrupting you, Phil. I do it all the time, so I'm a horrible being. But also, I think it's important for our audience to take a beat and go, wait, what? If I have a baby and I live in New Zealand, 5 months later, some miracle angel is going to show up in my house and make sure that I know that. And you mentioned risk, Phil. Here's the challenge. In America, we don't see it as risk. Our parents don't see the water as risk. So even educating them on that word and then the confidence and then the skills just because I had a baby in New Zealand, right? In America, we don't even get that until we have a franchise swim school, show up instead of at Starbucks down the corner. And then we talk about floating babies. But the point is it's infiltrated into our lives later, not while we're really able to understand it. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. I think it's just a huge moment.
And with a lot of this stuff as well, the parent is the baby's first teacher in so many aspects of life. So you will teach them to eat, you will teach them to drink, you will teach them to walk, talk,
but not swim. We just won't do that. We're not going to do that.
But then this is exactly where the issue is and again, it's no fault of the industries, but we've done such a good job of convincing parents that swimming lessons is the only way to do this, that they go, oh, there's nothing I can do.
Right, I'm out.
It doesn't for me, so don't go near the water. And it's only a matter of time before that kid is near the water. Like the
Right. What did
planet
Mama
is.
say about the water again? I don't remember.
Well, and again, that's where the whole kind of construct is slightly askew, because kids, two of the strongest messages: don't go near the water, don't talk to strangers. And then they get thrown in a swimming pool with a complete stranger on day one of lessons. And then the parent goes at us because the kid's not achieving anything and they're stuck in the same level. And it's like, well, they are literally fighting against every instinct that they've
from
for the
birth,
last
when we didn't tell him
5 years, 8 years, however long it's been since you've, not had them in the water. All I've had is negative reinforcement with it, negative reinforcement. And then they get thrown in the pool with somebody like me. I'm a stranger. I'm a
or
big
me.
guy.
I'll take ownership. Yeah.
Guys, especially like guys swim teachers, struggle with it like hell because there's no level of trust there. Plus, they're already bricking it because they're near the water. Like they don't want to be anywhere near it.
And I'm
Mum's gonna
cold, and it's dark in the winter in Chicago, and I'm late, and I'm hungry. This is not swimming, Mom and Dad. What is this? This is not what? Yeah.
And it's a big bloody bathtub as well. Like these kids generally would have their experience has been in a nice contained little bathtub that mum's right there and all the rest of it. And then you walk into a poolside, it smells funny, it's loud, it's big,
there's a big drawing on the walls.
It's all unfamiliar. And then I've got to jump in and do something. Like, nah, this isn't me. Which is why we get so many kids crying on the side and why there's so much resistance from. So the whole thing's been built slightly wrong, which is why my personal opinion is I think that's one of the reasons why we're in the place that we're in, where parents feel helpless about this. And again, like I've just done a little bit of media in New Zealand, and the message is, man, every parent needs to know this. If every parent understood that they could just do some simple actions to get their kid water safe and floating, drowning would not be the number one preventable killer in the world, even just by that simple step of getting parents more invested in the process. And yes, it does bring us some problems as industry. I've heard people, parents being involved just makes it harder and blah 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 blah. But it really doesn't, because if the parents taking them to the pool once extra a week, the kids learn those skills twice as fast. If they take them to the pool twice a week on top of lessons, the kids learning 3 times as fast. It's exposure to water, and we all know that. Like, sorry, Nicole. Yeah.
So I'll plug my new book. My new book is Swim With Me. And I was out tonight at National Night Out, and I walked by the library table, and I said, look at my new book. And it's in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
Yes. And the whole concept of the book is the girl goes to a swim lesson, and then her and her mom go swimming together. And that's the whole book. And so the concept was that I feel that, I'm a swim teacher, and what happens is I see so much regression between lessons. So I wrote the book, and I wrote the book with the idea that if I gave some ideas, that maybe one of the several things that I talk about in the book would stick, so that parents would have something to do. Because so many times I think they just don't know what to do with their kid, or they just don't have any idea what to do. And they might hear what their kid says they did with the teacher, but they don't feel like they're adequate to be a teacher. So the book goes through, and every time they go home and they play a different game, or they push off like rockets, or they play like they're mermaids, or they pretend that they have a pirate ship. So it's a different way to, use imaginative play, but they still, she has her lesson with her teacher, and we cover a different safety point. And then at home, the mom she gets in with her kid. That's the most important part. She gets in with her kid and plays with her kid. And that's just the lesson I was trying to reiterate that I thought was so important.
It's not trigonometry. I just said my parent-teacher conference, and they'll start talking about math. Water safety and child education with the parents isn't your math student homework. It isn't something complicated. It's something that, to your point, Nicole, should happen before and after lesson. And to your point, Phil, it should happen as part of your parenting program, your parenting repertoire, your parenting playbook, if you will. And we're all adults. We all have kids. We've all been through it. But even when I was 22 and 17, and we've all had these moments in our career, you can look at a parent and go, okay, I'm not going to have to stare at that kid much longer because the parent's right next to him. And you can also look and go, oh, shoot, my day is going to have a long day. And neither parent is at fault, because we haven't told that parent from the day they became a parent how they can get better. It does, and to your point, Phil, it makes our lives, but we've been taught to clock those types of situations, but all the way, the parent doesn't know better. And so I think it's just so valuable to really make our audience know that there's resources out there. There's countries doing these. There is
Yeah.
hope. And you as a professional can help connect dots. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And again, Nicole, that's one of the reasons why I like working with you as well. Like that book's so cool, like, because the more we can wake
It is
parents
cool.
up to just doing some basic, like, and whatever that looks like is whatever that is. And again, that's why we're kind of launching this in the US at the minute. And the aim is that it's $25 for the entire program. You get that for life. And then also
I hope everybody stuck around to the end of this podcast. Keep going, Phil.
Well, but everyone that's purchased, we're going to be donating one to a family in need as well. So, like, those guys that can't afford the $25 shouldn't rule them out of being able to do it. And that's where, again, with the stuff that we're able to do in New Zealand, we want to try and do this in the States as well. And we think that, we've got over 30,000 parents learning on it in New Zealand. So, again, out of a population of 5 million, we haven't done terribly in terms of, kind of getting quite a large number of parents on board. And that's only really been in the last 4 years or so. So what we want to try and do again is work with you guys and with everybody that's listening to go, hey, look, if we can get the message out to parents, they will come to your facility to learn. So you will see them and you will get them back, and then they're more likely to join swimming lessons as well because they know you.
Yes, especially if you have a mom and top program or an Aqua Babies program and you just have it once a week. And you can't get them in the pool again, or they can't afford membership, or whatever the reason is. I loved Aqua Babies. I wrote the curriculum. Nicole has it. That's song and dance. That's great. But as a parent, they are starving for things to do. I can promise you that. And whether it's Phil's, Nicole's, whoever, if you have one in your community, that's great. The point is really stress to the parents that it's not over just because you put your towel on and got to your car. And it didn't begin just because you got in the water today. And I think that's a great message for our audience to take away from here. And again, as a monthly guest, Phil, is that there's resources out there. And it's not all just on you as the aquatic professional. And we know that the parents have been brainwashed and we've been part of the cycle, but we also know there's a way out of it. And what you've provided with SplashSave and what you do, I think is a great avenue. And so we're just excited for it.
So how do we find SplashSave if we're listening on, in our car while we're working out? You have to say something 3 times for people to remember it and hear it. So.
$25 for life. $25.
Right, but where do I go?
Oh, that's the wrong thing.
Yeah, so if you just go to splashsave.org, then there's a parent portal. Yeah, splashsave.org. So SPLASHSAVE.org, and then there's a parent portal section on there. So, and like I say, there's an introductory offer of $25 for the life of the membership. So there's no subscriptions.
Extra,
there's no
right.
Nothing extra in there. We just want every parent teaching their kids some basic stuff in the bath, in the backyard pool, at their local facility, kind of wherever they go. And yeah, so if anybody wants to do it, just head to splashsave.org and head to the parents portal.
Yeah. And if you have questions, Nicole and I work with Phil all the time. There is like an 8-day, 19-hour time difference between us and the other part of the world. But if you have questions or you want to see the booklets or anything like that, Nicole and I just believe in what Phil are doing and how you guys are able to knock over all this work overseas, because we're very impressed and appreciative of it. So. Yeah. Until next time.
As your kids carry on saying every time I see them, I live in the future, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, my son's so mad. He wants to know what the lotto tickets are for tomorrow. And I don't have the heart to tell him it's not like that. But yeah, he still never forgets it, Phil. Absolutely.
So there's a challenge for all of our audiences listening. Wes has given you guys several challenges. So if you guys are listening to the podcast, maybe you can tell me what they are. But I'm going to give you guys a challenge. The challenge for tonight is that you guys pick one community person or anybody that you feel, maybe it's a parent, somebody that you want to take some of the resources that we've had, but we want you to tell us who you've chosen. So whether you're sending us an email or a direct message, we want to know who you think would benefit from these resources. So it's kind of like a call to action. Like earlier when we mentioned, people don't have, I don't know what Wes said, they don't have a bathtub, or they don't know that, you could drill a hole in the wheelbarrow and then the child won't drown. Because we all know, I I went to an event today, and the lady, of course, told me that the child did not pass. The child is fine, but the child was life flighted to a hospital close by because they were found in the pool with foam coming out of different orifices of their face. So like I said, I hear
I wonder how that'll
stories
be recorded or
every
logged.
day. Yes, and like we mentioned earlier, these are statistics that are not reported. So these things happen and they can be prevented. So that's your call to action. Somebody that could be affected, we want you to tell them about Phil's SplashSave or my book or any of these resources. So you need to tell somebody and then let us know, and we're going to mention it on our next show. And Phil will be back. When Phil comes back, he's going to tell us about ACE and the development pathways, right?
Education
Yeah,
system.
well, it was actually I was going to mention that when we were at the beginning of this podcast, we were talking about kind of reaching your community and how do you ask the right questions and all of that sort of stuff. So a real brief one on ACE is we're here to help the industry as much as possible. So we've developed the Aquatic Pro Portal, or the Aquatic Centre of Excellence. So again, if you go to splashsave.org, it's available on the Aquatic Pro Portal tab. But in there's kind of like full questionnaires that you can go out to your community with. So you find a community member, and it'll get their true opinion of and it gives you all of the right questions.
They
to ask.
don't have to write go ahead, Phil. They don't have to think of what to ask my community. It's you kind of build out samples and performas and templates to say, wherever you live, whoever you work with, here's some suggestions to get you started, to kind of get the wheels turning and put it out to your local services, your local fire, your local whoever you have relationships with, and here's some ways to do that, right?
Yeah, and again, to give you an idea of the process of ACE, so the whole thing will take you in terms of this, and it covers everything to do with running aquatic facilities, programs, and everything like that. But if you're looking at a community need section, the ACE program will give you a downloadable template so you can ask all the right questions. It's then got a downloadable business case template so that you can start building what it is and what the investment looks like and how you can actually deliver it and what are the roadblocks and how do you get over them. And then it's also got a budget builder, which then you can build how much money you're going to be able to bring back into the facility. And then it's also got some guidance on how you build the program as well. So with every section of all of the complicated stuff that we come across in aquatic,
the roadblocks.
This thing's been designed, and this thing's been designed it's been designed by aquatic experts to enable everybody to be able to learn those basic steps, ask the right questions, and then ultimately get the better results out the other end of it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, looking forward to discussing ACE.
Yeah.
So and it takes you through recruitment and kind of cleaning and sanitation and customers and pretty much everything. So
all the fun stuff and the roadmap and very good. Great stuff. Great prep. Great teaser. Again, our audience members, you got good reasons to stay on and stick to the end and visit England and New Zealand in one full day of podcasting.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Phil. Phil, we like him, so he comes back monthly. He's our monthly guest. We partner together, so we'll see him again next month. Everyone else, thank you for joining. Have a safe time, and until next time, no drowning.